The Raptors can't find a spark as they lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 132-113. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Sherman Hamilton, Jack Armstrong, and Paul Jones. Sherm, this was a really frustrating game to watch for me. The Raptors allowed 70 points in the paint in this game. Can you just help illuminate why they struggled guarding that part of the court?
Well, this is one of those games I feel like, and we've talked about this, their starts have not been good. And a team like OKC, you gave them confidence early. They found the holes literally and figuratively in the defense, which was getting into the paint, off of the dribble, off the pass. And they really had no regard for the defensive presence of the Raptors. They were downhill all game. And I think one of the things that really concerned me in this game early was it wasn't like they were killing them in transition to get points in the paint. They were in the half court, and they were cutting, they were moving, especially the second unit for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They did a great job of carving up the Raptors with their passing and body movement in the half court. And to me, that was the alarming fact. I never expected that to happen, but you give a team like that kind of confidence, and they just continue to pour it on. And then the three-point shots start falling. A guy like Lou Dort, who hasn't made shots all season, he's knocking down shots at a higher rate to start the game. So the confidence was there. You gave them the confidence, and they continued to pour it on the Raptors. And the Raptors didn't have any answer on any level defensively for what OKC was doing. And Nick tried to throw the whole toolbox at OKC, box and one. You know, he tried some zone. He tried man. He tried doubling Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He tried everything. They didn't have it. I guess, guys, it's that 10-10-62. 10 games, you're going to win no matter what. 10 games, you're going to lose no matter what. And it's what happens with those 62 in the middle. So got to move on to the 62 in the middle after tonight.
Yeah. But Jonesy, is this a trend that you're seeing, though, with the points of the paint? Because I'm looking at these stats after every game, and it feels like it's a little higher than it should be.
Yeah, and you know, it's something that we always talk about. And to Sherm's point, you know, Eric and I just finished our video blog for the Fan, and we said the same thing. You know, the 10-10-62. It's one of those nights that you don't like to have them, but they're going to happen where you can't do anything about it. And what worries me, you know, it kind of piggybacks on what Sherm said in terms of getting into the paint. It's the point of attack. The first guy's getting beat. It's not like they're swinging the ball or they're punching a little bit into a gap and then pitching it, and then a guy's running over and they're driving the closeout. Sometimes they're just getting beat off the bounce in the middle. And that's, you know, if you want to flip that around, that's what Pascal Siakam was doing to make the Raptors so effective when he was in the lineup. Whether it be break down or just bully your way into the paint, now the alarm bells go off. People gravitate towards the ball. They're sucked in towards the ball, and you pitch it out and people start making shots. So I really think they've got to do a better job on the ball handler at the point of attack, making him go east-west a little bit. Or if I am going to, and you know, Jack, is something that, you know, you've said many times, the great Jerry Sloan said, help is one of the weakest words in the defensive vernacular. But at least if I know where I'm going to get beat, the help can come and we can kind of have an idea of where the rotations are going. Right now, they're just getting beat off the bounce from every which way, and they're getting into the paint, and it makes it tough. And you know, I just listened to the end of Nick Nurse, and he said that too. Rare do we have these nights where it just seemed like there was no jump, and you know, he's putting in that category too. Chalk it up, turn the page, and move on to Indiana. But you better not have one of those tomorrow night. That's all you can say.
Yeah, at one point, Giddey was open in the corner for what seemed like an hour. But Jack, you know, on paper, this is a winnable game. So what do you wish the Raptors showed more of tonight?
Well, what Sherman Jonesy said, I mean, obviously, you know, they outlined the defensive inadequacies to the point of, you know, I mean, the reality is you're watching them play, the ball's just getting anywhere it wants to go. And when that happens, you're not putting the offense on its heels, and they're dictating terms to you. So to me, you know, hey, look, you don't have Pascal Siakam. You don't have Precious Achua and Kem Birch. And I think you miss a little bit of Kem Birch. We talk a lot about Siakam and Achua here, but I think they miss Birch a little bit. I think he's a solid pro player who gives you good minutes, and not having him to spell Koloko a little bit. You got a rookie out there, and it's still, a work in progress there. So that hurts you a little bit. But no, to answer your question, I mean, clearly, the defensive identity wasn't there tonight. And, there are times I do think you could be overly aggressive on the ball, and you could create blow-bys simply by being too much into the ball rather than just be concentrating on keeping the ball in front of you. So I think there are times you want guys aggressive and you want the ball directed to the help if you do get beat. There are other times like, hey, just make sure the guy stays in front of you.
Yeah.
And don't let him get there. And I think so just part of it is probably film study and looking at it and say, hey, what do we want to do on these matchups? And when you're switching all the time, you got to be cognizant of a guy's strengths and weaknesses as a player. Is he a driver? Is he a shooter? How am I playing him? And then secondly, obviously, it's a focus thing as well.
So Sherm, we got to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander basically look unstoppable in 28 minutes. I know it's only 20 points, but it just felt like they couldn't, contain him at all. What specifically is in his tool bag that makes him so special?
I think the question should be, what isn't in his tool bag? I mean, he's got a lot, Randy, and everybody, we all know. I mean, he's one of those guys that, because of his cadence, because of his gait, the way he plays the game, he's constantly throwing defenders off. And, a lot of guys go from slow to fast. They change gears on you and they can blow by you. He goes from fast to slow. And then he's sidestepping, and he's got the vision he needs to make plays to teammates, and he's got the ability to score the basketball. And he's got the Euro steps in his game. He's got the awkward finishes. He's got the mid-range. He's got a lot of stuff in that toolbox, and he's got great size as well at 6'6". So you can see he's physically getting stronger, but he's got a great mind for the game at the end of it, and he knows how to manipulate defenses. You throw double teams at him. He's got all the window, the passing lanes figured out that he can get the ball to teammates, or he can break you down. His game is very, very tough to defend, but he's a thinking man's game. He's one of those guys who you take away all you think of about his physical attributes, and he'll think his way through it and find a way to be successful. But he's a special, special talent, and his star is rising very quickly in this league.
Yeah. Jonesy Nurse talked about before the game getting Boucher back on track tonight. Did you feel like he got there?
Chris was one of the few bright spots, I thought, tonight, and it was lost in an otherwise sea of incompetence. But he did a nice job with his scoring, with his rebounding. He continued to play hard all the way to the end. And you have to look for little victories in a game like this. And I would say Chris Boucher was one of them. You look at his effort. The effort is always there. But there were some more results that came with it tonight. And, after the game, Nick was asked about Indiana and Saturday night. And he said, listen, anything's on the table for the starting lineup on Saturday night. And again, he used everybody tonight, Nick. He went right down the list. I thought Juancho did some nice things. I mean, his defense and the parts of his defense that aren't strong kind of came out. But boy, he worked hard at the offensive end, made a few shots, kept the ball alive on the glass, ran the floor. And for a guy like that, there's no such thing as garbage time. There's no Pascal, there's no Precious. We're having a tough night. I'm going to go in there and say, hey, Nick, I can do some of these things. You can put me in. So, I liked what he did. But to your original question, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Chris's numbers, 20 points, 12 rebounds in 31 minutes. We saw some energy and some, as Nick likes to say, some jump in Chris Boucher's step tonight.
That's going to be interesting to see who he goes with a little bit more tomorrow night in Indiana, or Saturday night in Indiana. Jack, Scottie Barnes, more aggressive in the second half. I think that's just so important for their offense moving forward, but why aren't we seeing it more consistently?
It's a good question. I made the point Wednesday night going into the game that you need that you need that aggressiveness for 4 quarters. He seems to be a slow starter as a player, and he seems to kind of like, once he breaks the sweat and he gets a feel of the game and the assignments of what's going on, and he kind of gets the vibe of the game, then he starts to pick his spots and do it well. But with Siakam out of the lineup, and the other 2 guys you mentioned are out of the lineup, and who knows what Fred VanVleet's status is tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. He's one of your playmakers. The other 2 would be Delano Bant right now, and maybe Malachi Flynn. If you don't have Fred tomorrow night, who are you turning to initiate offense? And when you get bogged down the half court offense, who's going to run your offense for you? So I think he's got to. You look at the ownership level. I think he sometimes still plays like a second-year guy, saying, "Well, I'm going to defer to those guys because they're the stars, and I'll let them establish how we want to play, and then I'll blend in." And I think the Raptors are really trying to make a concerted effort with him to say, "No, we're giving you a bigger piece of the puzzle. We're giving you more ownership. It's okay if you're aggressive." Mm-hmm. And so I think, Jonesy and Sherman, you could correct. I don't think he has a selfish bone in his body. Like, he plays,
and Jack,
so I think sometimes I think he feels uncomfortable forcing himself on the game because he's not a selfish kid.
I was going to say that, Jack, in with respect to your comments, deference to other people, he does that. It's like, well, it's not me, it's us. I'm going to give it up, and I mean, you can be like that, but play with the jump, like force the ball into the paint to give it up. I just think, as you said, he doesn't want it. He's not the guy that is going to take over. He sits back, and we've talked about this before. The great point guards do that. They get other people involved. They look for their scoring at the right time. I just think there's part of him that's hanging back a little bit too much, as you said, Jack, deferring, and his personality is like, okay, like, we're all in this together, guys. Let's do it all together. Whereas, the coaching staff and we as fans and broadcast and analyst people say, hey, man, no, you jump in the car and start driving first, and we'll follow you.
Mm-hmm. And Sherman, it looks so easy when he does decide to be aggressive, especially just like, as simple as backing a guy down into the paint. He's got that jump hook.
Yeah, we saw him do it against Giddey quite a bit in that second half. And, Scottie's a big, long, angular player. And when he uses all of those attributes physically, because we know he's a thinking man's player as well, but sometimes you just got to physically say, I'm going to overpower you. Mm-hmm. And we saw him do that to Giddey, and he had some success. So, he grew so much in front of our eyes over the course of his rookie season that we rightfully so have a lot of expectations of him, but we also have to temper those expectations with understanding that the kid is still young. He's still learning. He's still figuring it out. So what are we saying? 13 games into the season, he didn't figure it out. That's okay. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of season in front of him, and he's going to get more opportunities to put himself in that position. I just hope physically he's healthy. You saw him grabbing at that left knee in the game. You hope there's nothing to that. And if he is physically healthy, I have full confidence that Scottie will figure out how to be more aggressive. We'll figure out how he's got to be more selfish in terms of looking for his own offense and continue to develop into a great player.
Yeah, definitely has the ability to dominate. All right, guys, got to stop you there. Next game for the Raptors is Saturday night against the Indiana Pacers at 7 p.m. Eastern. After the game, be sure to catch Raptors Tonight on YouTube and NBA TV Canada. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.